Hi, I'm Connor Botts with Tricky Fast Studios. In this series, we're going to be taking a look at how to make a game very similar to Flappy Bird using Cat Game Builder. In this video, we're going to continue where we left off and continue populating the states on the bird game object. In the last video, we got most of the way through the ready state, and the only thing that's left to do is to make it take input and then move us on to the next state when that trigger has been fired. To do that, we're going to add a trigger list underneath our action list. A trigger list is just like an action list, except instead of executing multiple actions, it listens for multiple triggers and then executes any actions depending on if those triggers fire. So underneath our trigger list, we're going to add a mouse button trigger, an input button trigger. With the mouse button trigger, we can just leave all the default parameters set. This will make it so that when we click the left mouse, our bird will flap. And for the input button trigger, specify the button name as jump. This is the default name for the spacebar in Unity's input system. This will make it so when we hit the spacebar or the mouse button, the bird will go up. Underneath this trigger list, we're going to add a serial action list. That way, if any of the triggers in the trigger list fire, every action underneath this action list will too. And then we're going to add two change state actions to this action list. Underneath the first change state action, change the target from owner to named and set the name to be obstacle spawner. And then change the state name to set next to obstacle. This will start our game loop on the obstacle spawner when we're ready to start the game. We'll also get more into this when we actually create the obstacle spawner game object. Then, under the second change state action, leave the target on owner and set the state name to playing. And with that, that will complete our ready state. Next, let's start populating our playing state. Let's start by adding two actions. First, an enable gravity action, and then a set UI text action. For the enable gravity action, set the target to owner and check use gravity. This will make it so that when the game starts, our penguin starts falling and you have to keep jumping to stay alive. Then under the set UI text action, set the target from owner to named and set the name to score text. Where it says body, change the type from value to owner and set the reference name to score. And finally, check keep updated. To get this to work, we're going to have to add a special component to our bird game object. So, on the bird game object, underneath the state machine, add a value holder component. This component acts as a container for variables with your cats. You can reference the state machine and then use a reference name of what the variable name is to get the value that that variable holds. So underneath this value holder, we're going to open up the menu and add an integer value to store our score in. You'll see that under our game over state, there is now an integer value component game object. Click on that game object and rename it to score. The game object name is the same as the reference name that we need to use to reference this variable. Now, under our set UI text action, with our body set to owner and the reference name set to score, we're going to set our score text to be whatever the score value is. And now we're going to add some triggers to our playing state. The first trigger we're actually going to copy from our ready state. So go ahead into our ready state and copy the triggered action. And then paste it into our playing state. This is the trigger that we're going to use for input and to make the bird go up. First, change the run type of this action list from serial to parallel. This will make it so that all the actions execute at the same time, which is great if you don't care about the order of them. And then, go into that first change state action and open the cat menu. Find the set velocity action, and using the replace button, replace this cat. Do the same thing for the second change state action, only instead of a set velocity action, replace it with a set bool animation parameter action. And lastly, add a play sound action. You can set the target of this play sound action to be jump. Jump is located under Audio, Sound Effects, Jump. And that's the only thing we have to set for this play sound action. Now, if we play our game, we should be able to fly after we get to the ready state. Now, for a bit of organization, let's rename this triggered action to be something a little more recognizable, such as input trigger. You are free to rename all your cats for organization purposes as much as you want. So the next thing we're going to do is add 2 more triggers specifically for collision detection. Let's do that now. Under the playing state cat menu, underneath spatial, add 2 collision triggers. Renamed one of the triggered actions to be enemy trigger, and name the other one to be point trigger. One of these triggers will be used for determining when we've hit an enemy, and the other will be used to determine when we deserve to get a point. So underneath the enemy trigger, we're going to set the target to be owner, the collide target to be tagged, then to be enemy, and then we're also going to check is trigger. What this cat does is this makes our bird game object look for any trigger collisions with game objects that are also tagged as enemy. Next, we're going to add an action list so we have actions to run when we do hit this trigger. First, change the run type of this action list from serial to parallel, and then add 2 actions underneath. A play sound action, and then change state action. Under play sound action, change the target type from owner to named, and change the name to hurt. Also, make sure you check keep playing after stop for this cat, because we're going to be changing the state in the next action, and we want to make sure that this sound keeps playing even if this action isn't running. Then, under change state action, leave the target on owner, and change the state name to game over. Now, if we hit any enemy triggers, we'll play a hurt sound, and we'll change the state to game over. Next, underneath our point trigger, go into collision trigger, and change the target, leave the target on owner, change the collide target to again be tagged, and to be the tag called ding. This is the tag that we're using to recognize the trigger that we're going to put in between both of our obstacles. Then check is trigger, and leave layer mask alone. What this does is makes our bird look for any trigger tag ding, and then when we do hit any trigger tag ding, we're going to make it so that we add points to our score. So underneath the collision trigger, add another action list. Change this actions list run mode from serial to parallel as well. And just like before, we're going to add 2 actions, a play sound action, and instead of a change state action like last time, we're actually going to go under values, and a modify integer value action. First, under play sound, change it from owner to named, and change the name to be point. Then, under the modify integer value action, we're going to change the source value from 0 to be owner, and the reference name to be score. And then we're going to add to that score an amount of 1, and then set the value back to that score value. So now, every time we pass through a point trigger, we're going to add 1 to our score variable. And because we checked keep update in our set UI text action at the beginning of playing, this means that it'll automatically update our score for us as well every time we get a point in the UI. You should now have 3 of the 4 states done for the bird in this Flappy Bird clone. In this video, we went over trigger lists, variables in cat, also known as values, and setting values to the UI. I hope you found this video informative and useful. For more information on cat and how it can help you prototype and build games faster, please visit trickyfast.com/cat. My name is Connor Botts with Tricky Fast Studios, and thanks for watching.